impacts because a lot of times we get into certain industries and we come into certain livelihoods that we didn't imagine, and we could have never imagined like the success that we would have. We would never be able to imagine the impact that we would have in that space. And that's me in tattoo, right? So if you don't know, I come to tattoo as a cutter, and it was kind of ancestral veneration, or not ancestral veneration, ancestral, what's the word I'm looking for? Intervention, right? In terms of me and cutting and all of these things where it was like, go get tattooed. So the long of the short, or the short of the long story, is that essentially when I got tattooed, or when I started getting tattooed, I was in college. I was cutting actively. It was my first time away from home. There was a lot of mental mudslides. And this is also how I get into tattoo therapy, right? So lots of mental mudslides, and then, intervention, the ancestors intervened, and they're just like, no, bitch, go get a tattoo. Um, and I used to always keep this journal, because I like asymmetrical things, of like doodles that were asymmetricals. A's and V's do a lot for me. 69s do a lot for me. All of these things. And so I saved up money. I literally made like a tattoo jar. And I saved up money, and the very next time I had an overwhelming urge that I could not control in terms of cutting, where it felt like that urge took over me, almost possessed me, where I could not talk myself out of it, couldn't talk myself down, X, Y, and Z. Um, I went and got tattooed. So that's the story of my first tattoo. I talk about this in depth in my book, Shop Gal, the memoir. I don't know why I'm stuttering so much this morning. Shop Gal, the memoir. So you can pick that up. You can check it out. I talk a lot about how a white man told me no. So when I did, take it seriously and start trying to find an apprenticeship, taking that as a challenge. I talk about, my mental mudslide. So what led me to tattoo in the first place. So anyway, with that, I never imagined coming to a place of survival, right? A place of, no, really, I'm doing this because I want to live. I'm trying to choose to live. I'm trying to choose happiness. Um, that I decide that I want to become a tattoo artist. And in becoming a tattoo artist, I did not know that what I was asking for is my liberation. Ah, Go figure. I grew up in tattoo, so I always talk about how tattoo literally saved my life, because without having something of a release, both on both sides of the counter, from, wow, this is really emotional, um from being the one getting tattooed to also being a practitioner, it has done a lot for me in terms of me growing up, in terms of me healing, in terms of me owning my shit, in terms of me doing my shit, in terms of me becoming the shit, um, which is what kind of leads us here, which is when I wrote Shop Gal, I wrote it to take time to reflect, right? We come into survival things, and the key is to survive. So you don't see all of the things that you're doing, all of the moves that you're making, the impact, none of that. You don't see any of it. And in fact, if you don't make time to go back to bring it back forth to your memory, you can forget it. So you forget that you've done great things, no matter how small they may seem, right? So with that, I decide that I want to take a journey and go back at my 16-year mark. I'm now at 22. Um, at my 16-year mark, to look at all of the things that I've been able to do, all of the growth that I've had through tattoo, through my ancestors, because they're the ones who sent me their shit. um, and now I'm looking at like certain impacts. So I'm getting certain questions. Somebody asked me if I do fine line tattoos. And I was just like, yes, I do fine line. And somebody, something was literally just like, own your shit, right? Like, stand in your shit and own it. And I was just like, the fuck? So I was like, not only do I do fine line tattoos, but I am the purveyor of fine line tattoos for black skin. So what we know that is trending is fine line tattoos, black people being able to get fine line tattoos. In the early 2000s, honey, that was not a thing. Let me tell you, I'm the second black female tattoo artist, most prominent tattoo artist for the US. And when I came in, even Mama Jackie, because it's a whole boys club, and has always been a boys club, at least for Western society, right? Um, when we get down to it, everybody's doing thick lines. Everybody's doing trad. It is the style of the era. And not only that, but if you were black, you were always advised that you had to have thick lines, that, nothing was going to show up on your skin if it wasn't thick lines. And I'm not just talking about my skin tone. I'm talking about like 12 shades lighter type shit. Like, if you were any type of melanated, it was always like, get thick lines. It's not going to show up, you know? Um, and so I started challenging that. And in challenging that, I decided that I would listen to my tattoo master. I took all the lessons from him, and then I applied my own understanding, and that's when I came up with fine line. Now, in that, it was nothing, necessarily special, other than I was bold enough to try fine line based on what I understood about tattoo, based on what I have been, the instruction and the foundation that I've been given, to start kind of innovating in there, right? So I remember the first fine line piece I did, it was names on the back of my soror's ankles. And they're fairly small. And he was like, they're gonna look like shit in like a year. And I was like, you taught me. Let me do this shit. And sure enough, years later, literally almost 22 years later, yeah, yeah, they still look readable. They still look great. And I took all of the practical, and this is why I stress, the importance of tattoo apprenticeships and being able to understand what that looks like, because you can't innovate if you haven't been giving the foundations. You're going to be too busy learning the foundations for the next umpteenth years to come, that you can't innovate so fast. I innovated within the first year, less than a year of tattooing. Like, she wasn't a customer, she was a guinea pig. you know but I took time to learn the foundation, so that way, I could understand the rules to break them. Pretty much the theory of Picasso, right? Picasso does cubism, and with him doing cubism, what Picasso did and what he was dedicated to was learning the rules, learning how to do, traditional painting as it was for his era. And then once he got to a point where he said, I've learned everything that I can possibly learn, let me deconstruct this. And in deconstructing that, that's how he comes up with the most beloved form ever, cubism, right? Cubism was nothing but Picasso saying, I know the rules and now I understand how to break them. So if you come at me with shit, I can tell you exactly what the fuck I did with my work to get to where I am, bitch. Like, that's Picasso's vibe, right? And I'm in my Picasso period where I'm starting to deconstruct all of my work, starting to actually study myself, study my work, study my artistry, study this gift that I've been handed, right? Like, I was ushered into tattoo from the ancestors, to understand what else they're trying to tell me, right? They wanted me to survive for a reason. They wanted me to live for a reason. And it's not just like, yeah, bitch, just let my legacy live on. There's something else there, right? So, anyway, that's the first innovation. The second one is, what was it? The hashtag. Black female tattoo artist. So again, innovating very, very early in life. And it's my homegirl, Carl, who reminds me that I made predictions about how we would need to use social media, and how the brand would stand digitally, and what we needed to do for pens and needles, all this wild shit that I'm like, I forget that I even, and she was like, no, no, you're the one who led us there so that we could actually do the things and survive, and like not even survive, but like thrive and be ahead of the curve. I'm like, shit, I didn't know. Um, but anyway, the hashtag Black female tattoo artist, just so you understand the space in which I come into the door of tattoo, it is when Black Planet is starting to um, kind of quiet down a little bit, right? My space is starting to pick up. We're starting to code, and my space has nice flowy pages with lots of code of music and twinkles and shit coming down. And it takes 20 minutes for a page to load up, and you're going to sit there and wait because you know that whatever is behind all this code that is coming together and loading, it's going to be a grand fucking experience, right? Of that person, of that brand, of whatever. On Artistic Soul, I was known as, or on MySpace, sorry, I was known as Artistic Soul. There's also another page called Indian Pussy. That is my character, Indian Pussy. Like, she's actually a character. I'll talk more about that branding stuff later. But I was known widely as Artistic Soul. I used to paint custom sneakers. I still do if the vibe is right. Um, and that's how I started making my name as a tattoo artist, right? And this is literally how I teach now. So I teach you economics first and how to make money off of the art that you already know how to do. So that way, by the time you get to tattoo, you're only building on what you already know. So a lot of times for people coming in with me, it feels a lot harder. It's a lot less dopamine inducing if you don't even understand what you want to do if tattoo wasn't a thing, right? Or you're just not willing to get out there and do something artistic that would keep you in that realm, that would keep you practicing tattoo 24/7, and being able to translate, certain art forms in a tattoo. Um, so during my apprenticeship, I was Artistic Soul. I was not getting paid, so I was doing custom sneakers, and I was doing a hell of a bang up job. Like, it was great, to the point that through MySpace, I was noticed from Red Bull, I was noticed from Adidas, I was noticed from Def Jam, and I became a published author about sneakers, about being a sneaker freaker, being a female sneaker freaker, right? Um, and shout out to being a queen among kings. The book that I'm in Def Jam, I'm literally the only woman talking about sneaker freaking. I'm the only one talking about custom sneakers. The book is called I forgot the name of it, and I can see it. It's in my studio. Um, the definition of hip hop, right? And it's a painting of Little Kim on the cover, and I am in there. I don't have any images in there, but I do have words in there where they're talking about, they're sharing my story about sneakers and my philosophy about, like, I painted the back of sneakers because guys will always, this is like 90s, 2000s, going into like early 2000s. So it was literally like guys always want to look at your butt. And around this time for DC fashion, we had Parasuco, we had Bongo, like we had skinny jeans for the ladies. Um, so with that, it was always like guys always want to look at your ass when you walk past. They could look at the back of my sneakers. So I would make it something like, I don't want you looking at my ass. I can't really help that you're going to look at my ass, but I can give you something to divert your attention so that I don't feel you looking at my ass, which was the back of sneakers. So that was my philosophy with sneakers. I did a hell of a job. It solidified me not just as a tattoo artist, but among Black Broadway's who's who. If you don't know, in DC history, there is Black Broadway, which is U Street. And that is where a lot of the Black businesses, people who were thriving, Black who's who, Black middle class, anything Blackety Black, culture related was on U Street. And so was I. Right. So I started really innovating a lot within tattoo culture, from a place called Rhode Island Avenue, which is where I did my apprenticeship under Chris. The spot was called Northeast Tattoos. And then when Northeast Tattoos was closing and Chris was like, I'm doing my own thing, I went with him. Like, where the fuck else was I going to go? I was just going to be like, no, I'm outside. But at Northeast Tattoos, I innovated 2 times over before the shop even closed. But most of it is because I understood my foundations, right? So I innovated with Fine Line. I innovated with the hashtag Black Female Tattoo Artist. I started rambling, so I didn't really get to the point of what happened there. But with Black Female Tattoo Artist, what happened on MySpace is I started using hashtags. I understood almost immediately how hashtags file things in the broader scape of the internet. So being able to find things based on hashtags, it is going to change. And is already changing, now where you can find certain AI quotes, right? Things that people are searching for. So AI terms, things like that. So it's going to be a little bit different, but still the same idea. These words, you put a pound sign in front of them. They organize your information amongst the broader of the web. So I used to use this hashtag Black Female Tattoo Artist all the time. And I shouldn't say used to because I still use it. Black Female Tattoo Artist. I use it all the time. And I would use it all the time because part of my apprenticeship was I had to search for other Black tattoo artists. So I would use it as a way to hopefully, flag like, hey, I'm here. Where are you guys? And yeah, anytime I posted work, hashtag Black Female Tattoo Artist. Anytime, even my sneakers, and that's because they were done by a Black female tattoo artist. Yes, I was an apprentice at the time, but I wasn't just going to become an apprentice. So I would tag myself what I was becoming, what I was actually shape-shifting into, which was a Black female tattoo artist, a very prolific one, I might add myself. Anyway, those are the two times that I innovated two times over. And then I innovated again when I opened Little Ink Play Shop because I envisioned not a normal tattoo shop. Now, if you don't know my brand, if you don't know Little Ink Play Shop, Little Ink Play Shop opened about 9 years ago. 9 years ago, friend, there wasn't like a boom of soft pink caring studios, private or otherwise. Like, girls weren't like, let me be girly in a tattoo studio. And my concept was that I wanted a space that didn't look like a tattoo studio at all. I don't want you to come in feeling like you're coming to get a tattoo where you're going to be triggered about pain and all of those things. I want you to come in relax and feeling like you just coming to come see a homegirl. Right. Um, and because I wanted it to be the idea of a safe space, and I say the idea because I don't truly think any space or any person is truly safe. Like, it's going to be something that's not safe for someone. There's going to be something there that someone does not jam with. There's going to be something there that will trigger someone else. So you can't be the same way you can't be inclusive. You can't necessarily be a safe space. It's farce. But you can give the perception of a safe space. You can also help foster safe connections. You can, help foster with boundaries. You can help foster with communication. You can help foster with, we have touch and feel. We have things that you can actually engage with on the internet. All of these things, or on the internet and in the shop, all of these things. So in that, I innovated the third time because I decided my tattoo shop was going to be pink. It was going to be pink. It was going to be girly. It was going to be all fine line goodness. And I was going to specialize in anime and kawaii tattoos, which is now trending, by the way. I was doing anime and kawaii tattoos a long time ago when I came across like Mr. Cartoon. I came across Book and a lot of chulo styles in tattoo because they were doing a lot of like just funky things. Yeah, just, they had clown masks and stuff like that. And it was very different, right? And it was always black and gray. So with that, it was like, what? But we could do this with cartoons. And then you had I can never call this artist's name. Jesus Christ. There's a particular tattoo artist. When I call his name, I'm going to edit it and I'll put it in the show notes when I edit this video. I can't call his name right now and I can see his art vividly, but he used to do kind of like over exaggerated characters. His style is reminiscent of the artist who did like the rats. Um with the eyes bulging out, things like that. And when these styles like started making it into tattoo on a very, very regular basis, Black people weren't getting them, right? Black people weren't getting them because there was nobody around who could translate these styles onto dark skin. And if you went to a white artist would say, you can't get that. So when I opened my studio, kawaii and anime tattoos weren't trending, especially for dark skin, but I was. I was trending, because I was doing it. I was just like, yeah, like this about to be the next hot thing, and I'm about to get on it right now. I don't know what it is about me being able to predict being ahead of curves, but hey, it is what it is. Anyway, I'm not saying that, I popped off that trend or anything like that. I'm just saying that the trend of kawaii anime tattoos has existed in tattoo long before this particular trend, which is vaguely or vastly different from fine line existing. It's just that those styles, kawaii and anime, pop culture tattoos, they were called something else. They were illustrative. They were just called cartoon tattoos. Um, things like that. So you didn't really have a lot of packaging, to say like this is what it is. And I personally like that. This is another ramble. I personally like that because it still gave artists freedom. Now, when there are kawaii and anime tattoos now, there are very few artists who actually do them in their own style, which is what I challenge myself to do. So a lot of times you see my kawaii anime tattoos, I say kawaii anime inspired because it may be the character, it may be X, Y, and Z, but we're definitely putting our own spin on it. Like we're not copying it from the book as the character is, or the character is doing exactly like this. So we're going to make the character do exactly like that. We're changing some things up. We're making this character relate to you and your story. Um, so whatever you see for yourself as that character or how you relate to that character is what we do, not just the character itself, because who does that? Or plenty of people do that, whatever. Um, so yeah, so all that to say that I'm recording this because I need to remember moments of innovation in tattoo that I have had my hand in, right? Tattoo isn't often recorded, so a lot of people aren't going um to know where the start of something came from. And honestly, I take a lot of my cues from Erica Badu, who says that once an idea comes out of me, it's not mine anymore. It's for the world to expound on, which is how we get woke, both in a negative and positive way. She is the purveyor of the word woke. And, afterwards, it just kind of takes on a life of its own. In an interview, she was saying how, the the interviewer asked her how she felt, because it's now, has this negative connotation. And she was just like, what am I supposed to feel? It's not mine anymore. I've shared this idea with the world, and now the world gets to take it and the world gets to innovate on it. So I can't control the innovation, and I can't control other people's ideas the same way people can't control my ideas, which I found very profound. And I usually take a lot in that because it's almost like the idea that your portfolio speaks for you, right? But we're in this digital age and we're in this very, very fast era where people don't go back and look at the breadcrumbs. People don't go back and look at facts. People don't go back and look at where things came from. In fact, if Google tells you that this is where it started, that's just where it started, the end, right? Um, I don't want that to be my story. And I want to be able to record and use this digital age um, in a more intentional way to actually record my moments of the innovation within my industry. Because other than that, I'm always going to look at it as I came in to survive and I'm just surviving. And let's survive. and survive and survive. And you don't take time to like literally like sit in your brilliance. Me answering that question about fine lines really opened up something for me where I was like, holy shit, Imani, like this is what you really do. While I tell people this is what I really do and I don't play about tattoo, it took that question. It took that moment of me owning my shit to be like, oh, Imani, this is what you really do. Like, bitch, this is you. This is what you like. Fuck with me. You know? So yeah, so I thought I'd share that. Yes, this is a live recording. Yes, this will be edited. Um, Probably into a more YouTube like a format and then re-upload it to Shop Gal Diaries. But in the meantime, thank you for listening and hanging out with me. I do want to tell you some things that are coming up. One, I am working on a new book. So if you haven't read Shop Gal, you should read it now. It is my memoir that talks about how I got into tattoo, how tattoo saved my life, all the things, all the snowballs that led me there, and how I become the tattoo artist you know today, like the kawaii tattoo artist you know today, the pink loving tattoo artist you know today, um, the take no shit tattoo artist you know today, right? Um, and what my Afro kawaii or shop gal ethos is, and what that looks like what it all embodies. I talk about how I became the first Black woman tattooing in Japan, the first prominent Black female tattooing in Japan. Hi, that's me. Um, uh, and I've been doing so for the past 8 to 10 years, or it's been a little over 10 years now. So yeah, hi, that's me. Just tried to take a working vacation and, again, in trying to survive, trying to challenge yourself to do things that help you get better. You don't realize where you change things, where you innovate, where you grow. Right? So yeah, so I became the first most prominent Black female tattooing in Japan. That's wild as shit. Um, Shout out to my homegirl, okay then Tan. Tan is the author of Ink the Diaspora. Tan is over in Japan now. Tan is about to welcome twins into the world, but Tan is also a female tattoo artist over there, Black female tattoo artist over there. So I was very excited when I saw her in Japan, and I was like, family's there, And it's not just tattoo family, like prolific as fuck tattoo family. So it's like, no, really. Um, so yeah, so I did that. Like, it's a lot of things that I did. So I encourage you to get Shop Gal, the memoir. I encourage you to check it out. I encourage you to read it. I encourage you to apply it to your life, your brand building, how you see the world in general, and how you move about the world. And if you got any questions, you need a body double, you need, coaching or, just support, I'm actually still here. You can reach out to me on DMs. We can commune, friend. It's cool. Um, so yeah, so with that, I am writing a book, The Cultural Stewards Playbook, which is going to be more about tattoo history, Black tattoo culture, what Black tattoo artists have gone through, how Black tattoo artists have innovated. There are very few people who know that it's a Black tattoo artist who created Afropunk in its original form. There are very few people who know that Maya Bailey is not the first godfather or Black, most prominent godfather of Black tattoo culture or urban tattooing. And he gives credit where credit is due, right? But we don't have a lot that really tells us about this, and we need more cultural stewards, and we need a process, right? We need a system to be able to hold things together so that, if nobody else is going to keep our history together, we do. So this book is sharing more about cultural conversations that I've been able to have in the past 2 years, especially like during pandemic. Um, Unearthing more about Black tattoo culture, Black tattoo history, because it's really fucking important. And we're really blessed to have a lot of living history still here. And as I say, like it's all around, but people have to be open to it. People have to be open to that history. Because other than that, you get people saying, I'm the first person who did, Black inks, created Black inks. And it's like, no, you didn't. That's Andre Malcolm, you know? Um, a hundred dragons. He does bodysuits. He's the black guy. He's the only black man purveyor who is doing like full traditional Japanese bodysuits and such. That's not you, you know? Um, and being able to put that history together, what the OGs have been able to do. And I'm not saying like, I'm not trying to say like I'm throwing shade at anybody, but I want us to know our history. I want us to know as Black tattoo artists, like who paved ways and not just, assume that because we can't find them on Instagram or because they're quiet and they don't have a large following, um, that they're not important, that, we just railroad over them because they're not in this digital age or they're not putting on in this digital era. Um, they've done the work already. Let them fucking rest. And let them live how they choose to. So I'm working on that cultural stewards playbook. And it's going to be a lot of conversations. It's going to be a lot of looking at my work. I have decided that I'm taking my work as a living dissertation. I've done 22 years of tattooing, and in that, I have learned a lot of shit, a lot that, we can either wait for the internet to tell it to us or we can compile it and give it to our folks. So I'll be working on that. And then also, um, I'm booking for tattoos and I'm booking for branding, and you're going to see a lot more from me in terms of tattoo ethnohistory, specifically Black tattoo culture, obviously, duh. And I'm getting ready. We're gearing up for Black Tattoo Anthology again, Black Tattoo Culture Con by Black Tattoo Anthology. So I'm really excited about those things. So I can't wait to tell you more. Those things will probably be in written long form more than anything. The next post that I'm doing, I'm actually sharing more about my dissertation, like the question posed and what I've been actually looking at and observing for the past 20 years. I'm like, this can't be a rhetorical question anymore. Like, we actually have to answer the question. Um, and looking at the phenomenon of what I call tattoo hunger or ink thirst, that is happening, right? Um, that is happening among Black folk in general. It's not just people who are getting tattooed, it's people who are tattooing, it's people who, feel like tattoo has called them to be into tattoo for whatever reason. What does that thirst look like and why? Why is it here? Why is it awakening now? And what do we do with it? What can we yield from it? What economic power, economic stability can we yield from this thirst, and how do we innovate within a culture and give back to it, not just coming to it looking at what that culture can do for us, but what we can do for each other, right? I'm all about two-way streets. So even when it comes to my clients booking, like there's a mutual agreement there. It's not just you sign a contract, I'm over you, but a two-way street. So in that, what can tattoo do for you to enhance your life, and what can you do for tattoo to enhance the industry, right? People come into it all the time like, I just want to make money. I want a tattoo. It's very sacred. And a lot of people don't make it that far. A lot of people don't make it to 20 something years. A lot of people don't make it to fucking 10 years. A lot of people don't grow within their first 5 years because they haven't dedicated their life to tattoo and they haven't held it with two hands. They've only held it with like two fucking fingers, like they smoking a cigarette. All I'm saying is that when you come